In a past life, he married me as his mentor advised, but I treated him with utter coldness. Until he was killed by a rival. Among his belongings, I found a stack of love letters he had written to me. Every word was filled with the pain of loving me but being unable to have me. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to 3 years earlier. It was the year we had just gotten married. I burst into his room, looked at his injured arm, and asked with red eyes, "Ethan, does it hurt?" He paused for a moment, then resignedly closed his eyes and said hoarsely, "What? Are you trying to rub salt into my wounds again?" In my previous life, even after I died, Ethan's love letters were still posted online. They were mocked by the crowd. His rival not only took over his business empire but also mocked him on camera as an unloved bastard. I died in a car accident on my way to the TV station trying to clear his name. In my final moments, I wished that Ethan wouldn't meet me again in the next life. When I woke up from the darkness, I still felt the pain. Scattered voices of blessings drifted into my ears. "Mr. Miller, Miss Victoria, happy first anniversary. Ethan and I." First anniversary? I looked up in shock. Bright white light blinded me. After a moment of ringing in my ears, I found myself at a cocktail party. The room was filled with clinking glasses. Ethan, looking much younger, sat beside me with a cold expression. The blood from my fingertips trickled down his pale knuckles, drop by drop. His hand was injured. The dinner knife fell to the ground. The waiter apologized nervously. "I'm sorry, Mr. Miller, I didn't hold it steady." A wave of sadness welled up inside me. I couldn't help but call out his name. "Ethan." A meaningful laugh suddenly came from across the table. "Miss Victoria, I avenged you. How will you thank me?" Looking in the direction of the voice, I saw a familiar face. Ethan's rival and the one who had killed him in his previous life, Nathaniel. My whole body trembled as I suddenly remembered that day. At our 1-year anniversary banquet. I had an argument with Ethan and harshly said, "If I ever speak to you again, I'll be a dog." During dinner, Nathaniel deliberately had someone injure Ethan's right hand. Out of politeness, I coldly told the waiter, "I hate blood. Please clean it up." "Thank you." This statement was misunderstood by Ethan. He simply wiped away the bloodstains in front of me and endured the pain to continue discussing business with others. Due to the lack of timely treatment, Ethan's precious hand was permanently disabled. Every time it rained or was cloudy, his joints would ache. Eventually, it became the weakness that took his life. At that moment, seeing Ethan expressionlessly pull out a tissue to wipe away the bloodstains in front of me, my heart twisted into a knot, aching with every thread. I pushed Ethan's arm aside and stood up abruptly. "Nathaniel, give me an explanation." My reaction stunned everyone present. The scene fell into complete silence. Ethan froze for a moment, his dark eyes briefly meeting mine. After a fleeting pang of pain, they quickly returned to their usual calm. He closed his eyes briefly. "Victoria, there's no need for this. If you think I'm dirty, I'll go change." Wait? Did he think I thought he was dirty? I grabbed Ethan's sleeve with all my strength, all traces of my former restraint gone. Under his confused gaze, I grabbed a water cup with red eyes and threw it at Nathaniel. "Nathaniel, apologize to my husband." The entire room fell silent. Under everyone's gaze, I stood firmly behind Ethan, looking like a wronged woman. Under my palm was Ethan's cold, lifeless wrist. It was trembling slightly from the pain. All because of what I said before the wedding, "I want a life of luxury." Ethan was willing to risk his life tonight to seal this deal. The smile vanished from Nathaniel's face. He wiped the water off his shoulder and asked darkly, "Miss Victoria, you hate Ethan the most, don't you? Why are you pretending now?" The gentle touch beneath my palm felt so real at that moment. Even without looking at Ethan, I could feel his stiffness. I pulled out a tissue, wrapped it around his wound, and said, "This is all part of our marital affection. You're not even human, so you wouldn't understand." Nathaniel's face darkened. "Victoria, you." In that moment, I recalled my past life. After Ethan's death, Nathaniel had used those filthy words to describe him, and I had immediately grabbed whatever was within reach and smashed everything in sight. A few minutes later, Nathaniel had seaweed and egg drop soup dripping from his head, and his face was badly bruised. As I pulled Ethan out of the hotel, it was drizzling lightly. The spring rain fell silently, like oil. I was still immersed in the joy of rebirth. Ethan suddenly pulled his hand away, his voice hoarse. "It's okay, no one's here." I turned around and met his cold yet handsome eyes, and I was instantly mesmerized. It was hard to imagine that at that moment, he was already secretly writing me a love letter. Ethan avoided my gaze and said coldly, "I have a meeting to attend. You go back first." "No. Victoria, can we argue another day? I'm too tired tonight." He stood in the gentle rain. His features were hidden in the shadows. His eyes were dim. The bloodstains on his lips and chin gave him a sickly beauty. I held his hand and couldn't help but tear up. When I spoke again, my voice was already trembling with tears. "Ethan, I won't argue with you anymore. Your hand is injured. Will you go to the hospital with me?" He suddenly raised his eyes, staring at me in disbelief, a fleeting glimpse of struggle in his eyes. Soon, they returned to stillness. "Vicky, how do you plan to torment me this time? Do you want to rub salt into my wounds? In my previous life, I wasn't good to Ethan. He was steady and reserved, with a bland personality, and had married me out of obedience to his mentor's wishes. I subconsciously felt that he hated me. Over the years, we became a bitter couple. By the time he died, I suddenly realized that my feelings for him had already penetrated my bones. The night wind blew, making me feel a bit dizzy. I couldn't hold back anymore and burst into tears, clinging to his arm. "Ethan, please don't die. I'm scared." This man who had been so cold toward me suddenly froze, and the stillness in his eyes melted for a moment. He eventually postponed the meeting. "Don't cry, I'll go." During the doctor's treatment of his wounds, Ethan didn't say a word. Because I was too anxious, constantly asking the doctor if there would be any lasting effects. As I spoke, I would suddenly break down in tears. After all, in my previous life, after Ethan died, I ran around everywhere to prevent him from being blamed. I endured so much scorn and injustice. I couldn't change my ways. Ethan's gaze remained fixed on my cheek the entire time, and I didn't know what he was thinking. After the doctor finished treating the wound, he took off his gloves and turned to Ethan. "Mr. Jiang, your wound isn't serious. However, your wife seems to be in shock." Ethan's expression stiffened, and he silently replied, "I'm sorry, it's my fault. I've been arguing with her lately." The doctor nodded in understanding and joked, "Don't bully her. She seems pretty attached to you." Ethan covered the bite mark I had left on him during their argument, paused for a moment, and whispered, "I know." When we left the hospital, my eyes were swollen. I held onto his bandaged hand, refusing to let go. Ethan's secretary stopped the car and looked hesitant. "Mr. Miller, tonight's meeting." It was already late at night, and with such a demanding work schedule, it was no wonder Ethan had fallen ill. I felt scared and moved closer to Ethan. "I'm afraid to sleep alone." Ethan's expression went blank, his eyes growing dark. "Vicky, do you know what you're saying?" Until today, I had never dared to get close to him, let alone act so clingy with him. I buried my face in his chest, determined not to let go until he took me home. Ethan eventually gave in. The Rolls-Royce glided smoothly into the villa compound. The night was quiet, and as I looked at the familiar villa, my chaotic heart gradually calmed down. Ethan was still alive, and we were home. I held Ethan's warm hand tightly, planning in my mind how to remind him to be cautious of certain people. As we passed the entrance, someone suddenly called out to me from the side. "Vicky, didn't we agree that you'd accompany me for my birthday?" The person stood under the streetlight, the cold white light illuminating a tear tattoo at the corner of their eye. The hood slipped off, revealing a face that was both alluring and beautiful. It was my childhood friend, Julian. He was also my relative from my previous life, who had stayed by my side until the very end. At that moment, I suddenly remembered that I had promised to come back early tonight to see him. But because of Ethan's injury, I had delayed until now. The moment Ethan saw him, his body stiffened. He coldly let go of my hand. Oh no! He misunderstood again. In my past life, I had read his love letters. So I knew that Ethan had always mistakenly believed I liked Julian. I tried to explain, but Ethan ruthlessly avoided my touch, saying he had a meeting and needed to go home first. Ethan. Before I could catch up to him, Julian pulled me back and said gently, "Vicky, the cake is ready. Let's get in the car." Watching Ethan's departing figure, I was frantic with worry. "Julian, your birthday isn't today. What are you doing?" Julian's smile froze. "I just can't stand seeing him treat you coldly. What's wrong with you today?" I didn't feel like explaining to him. I reached out my hand. "Where's the information I asked for?" Julian's eyes grew dim. "Ethan doesn't appreciate it. Why are you helping him?" In my previous life, I was afraid Ethan would lose out in business. After finding Nathaniel's information through Julian, I secretly placed it under Ethan's pillow. Ethan probably didn't see it, and in the end, he was betrayed and ruined. This time, I must give it to him personally. Julian handed me the documents, then suddenly gripped my hand. "Vicky, I have a stomachache tonight. Can you stay with me?" Even the words he spoke were identical to those from my previous life. In my previous life, when I saw Julian's pale face, I was terrified and rushed him to the hospital that night. The doctor told me, "He's just hungry. There's nothing wrong. He'll be fine after eating something." So I pushed Julian's hand away and said helplessly, "Find somewhere to eat. I have important things to do." Then I hurried home. I had thought that since Ethan was there, the lights would at least be on. But everything was pitch black. Dim light shone out from the study. I made my way to the study door by memory. I saw Ethan's figure. He wasn't in a meeting, he was bent over a piece of paper, writing something. His figure looked lonely. The bandage on his hand was slightly stained with blood. Ethan didn't notice. My heart sank, and I pushed the door open. "Ethan, what are you doing?" The man sitting by the window startled, looked up, and saw me. I rushed over, snatched the pen from his hand, and scolded him, "Don't you want your freshly bandaged hand anymore?" He probably didn't expect me to come back tonight. After a moment of shock, he discreetly covered what he had written and stared at me without saying a word. I lost my temper. "Ethan, do you have any sense? Did you forget what the doctor said? Is your hand more important than your work? Did you even listen to my instructions at all?" After my barrage of questions, Ethan's face showed a rare blank expression. "I'm sorry." He suddenly apologized to me. "I didn't expect you to come back." I choked up and couldn't say another word. He was afraid that I would be with Julian tonight. My heart softened, and I carefully unwrapped the bandage and replaced it with a new one. "I have nothing to do with Julian. Ethan, I like you." The breathing above my head suddenly became very light. Ethan looked away, waited until I finished bandaging him, then picked up the remaining items and walked out. It was as if he was avoiding something. I rushed forward to block his path and confessed for the first time, my voice trembling. "Ethan. I like you." The night was deep. Ethan's eyes were as deep as the ocean. His voice was hoarse. "Vicky, that's enough for today. Go to sleep." He still didn't believe me. I pulled out the documents I had just taken from Julian and handed them to him. "This is Nathaniel's information. I hope you can beat him." Ethan's gaze fell on the thick file, and a hint of self-mocking smile flashed in his eyes. I didn't get the reaction I expected. I grabbed Ethan's sleeve and asked, "Why don't you believe me? Does it really take some underhanded tactics to make him admit his feelings?" I bit my lip, blushing as I undid the ribbon of my skirt, then trembled as I embraced him. "You're sincere about him." In the darkness, Ethan's body tensed. A faint aura of hostility grew in the night. His large hand suddenly pressed against my waist, accompanied by the crisp sound of fabric tearing, leaving me feeling a chill. Next, I was pinned down on the sofa by Ethan. His eyes were filled with intense darkness, and he gripped my chin tightly, his voice hoarse. "Vicky, you're willing to go this far for him?" He seemed angry. Tears welled up in my eyes. "Ethan, it hurts." He laughed, his voice devoid of warmth. "You dared to lie to me? You deserve the pain. My body trembled, and I clung tightly to his shirt. I didn't. Ethan seemed enraged by my words. His rough hands gripped my delicate neck, and he spoke slowly. That document was all fake. Vicky, do you want me to follow it and die at Nathaniel's hands? That way, you can be with Julian forever, right? His words stunned me. What are you saying? Julian is Nathaniel's half-brother. Vicky, didn't you always know that? I stared at him in disbelief. Heaven is my witness. I didn't know about this connection until I died in my previous life. Realizing this, my face went pale. So in my previous life, Ethan's death wasn't just Nathaniel's scheme. It was also because he thought I wanted him dead. Tears streamed down my face uncontrollably. Ignoring Ethan's anger, I clung tightly to him. I'm sorry. Ethan, I'm sorry. Ethan laughed mockingly. Enough. This is too much. It's not real anymore. Leave me while I can still control myself. I clung to his shirt, my knuckles turning white. I won't leave. I promised I'd never leave you. The air pressure in the room dropped. There was a calm before the storm. Ethan seemed ready to kill me at any moment. You thought I couldn't do anything to you, didn't you? I stared silently at the man before me. In his eyes, I saw the growing obsession and madness. I shivered and clung to his neck, fearless of death. I whispered, "Husband, it's too cold. Can we go to the bedroom?" The next moment, he flipped me over and pinned me to the sofa. Ethan's hard, burning body trapped me in the narrow corner. He forcefully overwhelmed my senses. His cold, seductive voice echoed. Vicky, you started this. If you try to escape, I'll kill you with my own hands. I never knew Ethan had such a reckless side. I felt like I had fallen into a scorching deep sea, clinging desperately to a piece of driftwood, filled with fear and tension. The night grew dark, and Ethan's broad hands gripped mine tightly. The force was almost enough to break my finger bones. Ethan. I'm scared. You have no choice. Tonight, my cries turned into broken whispers. The night wind rustled the curtains. The starlight outside shimmered into a hazy glow. At some point, it burst from the sky into a dazzling display of light. I helplessly stared at the moon outside the window, crying and begging for mercy. But all I got was Ethan's even harsher punishment. Vicky, you wicked woman, you'll pay for this. The next morning, I got out of bed with my legs trembling. The person beside me was gone. The chaotic bed from last night, along with the traces Ethan left behind, had been cleaned up completely. It was as if nothing had happened last night. I checked my phone and found several missed calls, all from Julian. And they were from the middle of the night. I hadn't heard them. He had also sent me a message, "I received your tickets. I told you, your VIP seat will always belong to me." I glanced at the calendar. I suddenly remembered that I was hosting a violin recital next week. The only VIP ticket in the center section, I had sent to Julian. At the time, I thought Ethan wouldn't go. I panicked and scrolled down frantically. Ethan hadn't sent me any messages. Did he find out? I called Ethan, but his secretary answered. "Miss Victoria, Mr. Miller is in a meeting and cannot take your call." Fine. You don't recognize me now that you're awake, do you? I said weakly, "Please tell Mr. Miller that I'm not feeling well." The voice on the phone suddenly changed to Ethan's. It was cold and terrifying. "Where do you feel unwell?" I curled up in bed and let out a faint moan. "I just got out of bed and fell, because I couldn't stand up straight." The call was immediately hung up. The beeping sound came through coldly. Sure enough, once you anger someone, even acting cute doesn't work. I took a moment to compose myself, threw on one of Ethan's shirts, and made my way downstairs to the living room to call Julian back. He answered immediately. "Vicky, why didn't you answer my call last night?" I touched our photo and asked him, "We're best friends, right?" Julian's laughter came through the receiver. "Of course, you forgot back then, when we were in the orphanage, you wanted to be a violinist, and I wanted to be a big star. We promised to stay together forever." At that moment, those words made me feel a bit dazed. All these years, have I really understood Julian? In my past life, Ethan's belongings were sorted out by Julian. Those stacks of love letters, only the two of us had ever seen them, yet they were accidentally exposed to everyone. I had always thought it was the paparazzi. But now, I suddenly wasn't so sure. Julian was still talking nonstop on the phone. "Vicky, did you receive the gift I sent you?" I looked at the pile of gift boxes in the corner, still unopened. This must have been sent by Julian a few days ago. I vaguely remembered it was a large plush toy. Whenever Ethan wasn't around, I would hug the toy through thunderstorms. I gave a brief response, walked over to the gift box, and opened the packaging. The large white bear's shiny black eyes looked adorably innocent. Even though it had accompanied me for so long in my previous life, I couldn't shake the uneasy feeling in my heart. I picked it up, intending to stuff it into a storage closet, but the door suddenly opened. Wearing a short, lightweight shirt, I struggled to drag the teddy bear, only to lock eyes with Ethan, who had suddenly returned home. His gaze lingered on the stuffed animal before he pursed his lips and remained silent. Why are you back?" I felt a pang of guilt. "I came back to get something." Ethan's face was cold as he walked past me without looking at me. I kicked the bear away and clung tightly to him. "Ethan." His body stiffened, he closed his eyes, and said, "Let go." I bit my lip. "My legs are weak, I can't stand." "Enough." Ethan suddenly turned around, grabbed my waist, and said, "Vicky, I don't care what tricks you have. Julian's gift, you can keep it if you want, but I've told you, you're mine. You'll never get away from me." My face turned red inch by inch. "Ethan," exploded. "I really love husband." Ethan froze at my shout. I raised my eyes fearlessly, looking at him with a vulnerable, innocent gaze. "Julian gave me a gift. Why didn't you give me one?" He remained silent, lips pressed together. Under Ethan's icy gaze, I cried, tears streaming down my face. "Heaven have mercy on me. You married me but don't love me. I might as well die." A few minutes later, Julian's stuffed bear was thrown out the door by Ethan. I sat by the window, wearing a brand new diamond necklace around my neck. "Ethan, aren't you going back to work?" Ethan said nothing, lowering his head to kiss my chattering lips. "It's still daytime." I was dragged from the front door into the upstairs bedroom. My once bare body now had a necklace and a bracelet. Ethan, that pervert, even put a bell on my ankle. I happily touched everything. "When did you buy all these things?" Ethan remained expressionless. He picked me up and sat me on the windowsill. At that moment, I realized things were getting out of hand. Unfortunately, it was too late. I cried and called him a bastard. Ethan's voice was restrained. "Vicky, you're the one who let yourself get into this mess, aren't you?" Ethan is a very guarded person. He still doesn't believe the sweet words coming out of my mouth. But he can't resist getting close to me. But fortunately, this time, I had enough patience and time to slowly melt away the barriers in his heart. Lately, everyone around me has been saying I've changed. I've become obsessed with love. During the violin rehearsal break, I twisted myself into a shy snake in the green room. On the other end of the call, Ethan sighed helplessly, "I'm in a meeting. If there's something important, just say it." I called him over a dozen times that day. Ethan is always cold. But he always answers. This gives me immense courage. "Can you come to my concert next week?" There was a pause on the other end, followed by silence. I didn't give him a chance to respond. "I'm going to make a scene. A renowned violinist is performing on stage, and her newlywed husband doesn't even care. I'll become the laughingstock of everyone, and my career will be ruined." "Ethan, you're going to destroy me." "All right." Ethan interrupted my rambling, "I'll go." After hanging up, my agent looked stunned. "Ms. Wan, your relationship is so good. He must be very stable." Thinking about Ethan's attitude toward me, I felt a bit discouraged. He is stable. Stable enough not to want to say a single word to me. "By the way, that VIP seat." My agent smiled slightly. The organizers said they can open the second-floor exclusive VIP lounge for your husband alone. Rest assured, it's the best view in the entire venue. Tomorrow night, you'll be like a fairy, leaving him spellbound. In a past life, I performed a magnificent violin solo amidst a sea of flowers and applause. Oscar-winning actor Julian sat in the audience, gazing at me with tender eyes. This incident once topped the hot search rankings. Even after I clarified the situation, people still subconsciously paired us together. No one knew that after the curtain call, I sat alone behind the curtain, typing a message in Ethan's chat window. "Did you see my performance?" After hesitating for a long time, I still didn't send it. I was like a child starved for love, standing in the spotlight, acting out recklessly, but the person I secretly loved wouldn't even glance at me. The concert was as grand as ever. The venue was packed with people, many of whom had come specifically to see Julian. The appearance of the Academy Award-winning actor Julian sent the night's excitement into a frenzy. "Vicky, you look beautiful tonight." Julian stood in the crowd and handed me a bouquet of flowers. After learning about his relationship with Nathaniel, I felt a subtle pang of discomfort. "Thank you." Julian's eyes, as bright as stars, rested on my face, as if waiting for me to say something. I merely nodded slightly. "The performance is about to begin, I must go." Dressed in elegant attire, I stood at the center of the stage, my gaze fixed on the middle of the second row. I was so nervous that my palms were sweaty. It was pitch black there, completely empty. I lowered my head in disappointment. Sure enough, Ethan hadn't come. But it didn't matter. The stage lights gradually dimmed, and a spotlight fell on my face. I stood in front of the microphone, my voice soft. Actually, besides the violin performance, I had something important to announce tonight. I know that over the years, everyone has been curious about my personal life. Even during festivals, people started urging me to get married. Laughter erupted from the crowd below. Some people started chanting Julian's name. I leaned forward slightly, closer to the microphone. "Actually, I'm already married." I raised my ring finger, showing off the large diamond ring, and stared blankly at the second tier, smiling and saying, "Mr. Jiang, I love you." The entire venue erupted in chaos. Whispers spread. Who is Mr. Jiang? Could it be that famous entrepreneur, Ethan? Wow, this is big news. I thought she was with Julian. I got the couple wrong. Amidst the wave of discussions, I raised my violin. "Ethan, tonight's performance is for you. This piece is called Secret Love. It was written by the young me, for Ethan. Unfortunately, I was young back then, with a fragile and sensitive ego. I didn't know how to express my feelings. That's why we missed each other for so many years." The violin's melody was melodious. It carried the bittersweetness of a young girl's first love, echoing through the hall. At that moment, I didn't know. In the empty VIP room, a tall, broad figure stood silently for a long time. His eyes reflected the figure on the stage, and his heart raced uncontrollably, pounding against his ribs. A dull pain spread slowly, accompanied by an uncontrollable joy that spread throughout his body. "Vicky." He raised his hand. With his fingertips, he touched the gentle, beautiful face in the air. Like touching the alluring siren of the sea. Knowing he would meet his end here, he still chose to go alone. As the other person looked around in confusion, he spoke in a hoarse voice. "Vicky, I'll trust you one last time. If you lie to me again..." His fingers tightened in the air, and a flash of despair crossed his eyes. "I won't let you get away." After the curtain fell, I rushed backstage. "Has Ethan arrived?" The agent nodded. "He's here." Mr. Jiang didn't arrive late. I rushed toward the banquet hall without looking back. I trembled slightly in anticipation of our upcoming meeting. Did he see the gift I prepared for him? Will he hug me and say that tonight's performance was wonderful? But I searched the entire venue and couldn't find him. Julian appeared beside me out of nowhere. "Vicky, were you acting just now?" I dodged his touch. "I have something urgent to do." He gripped my hand tightly, his grip slightly out of control, but his face still wore a charming smile. "When did you become so close to Ethan?" I shook his hand off forcefully. Why shouldn't we be close? We're married. Julian's expression froze, his handsome face disappearing into the shadows. He curved his lips slightly. Is that so? But it seems like he's left. Impossible. Ethan wouldn't leave. The agent suddenly rushed over. Mr. Wan, there's a problem. Someone swapped the gift you sent to Mr. Jiang. I found this backstage. I looked at the agent. The bottle of champagne I had carefully prepared for Ethan was lying untouched in the trash can. The outer packaging was nowhere to be seen. Ethan had seen that gift box. He must have guessed that it contained the gift I had prepared for him. The champagne was in the trash can. Then what was inside the gift box? Julian chuckled. Vicky, tonight, I'll give you a good show. I turned around and met his cold gaze, my heart sinking. Julian laughed softly. Guess what, Ethan, that bastard, if he finds out you lured him to the venue and drugged the wine you gave him, would he still love you? My mind went blank. I couldn't hear anything else. What did you put in his drink? Facing my pale face, Julian spoke lightly. Right now, he's probably in bed with some stranger, having wild sex. I don't know how I managed to run out of the banquet hall. I called Ethan many times. None of the calls went through. Finally, I rushed to the front desk. I'm Ethan's wife. Please tell me which room he's in. The receptionist looked apologetic and said, I'm sorry, ma'am, there's no record of Mr. Jiang in our system. The agent is calling the event organizer. Check Julian's name. I suddenly thought of something and grabbed her arm, my voice trembling. No. Make him check Nathaniel. Julian was so brazen because he knew no one knew about his relationship with Nathaniel. Sure enough, a few minutes later, I received a room number. In the dead of night, I rushed down the hallway, dragging my long skirt behind me. Upon reaching the door, I pounded on it with all my strength. Ethan, open the door! The door creaked open, revealing a small crack. A glass cup whizzed past my ear, shattering into pieces on the wall behind me. Get out! A hoarse voice echoed, followed by a woman's scream. I burst into the room. The scene was in complete disarray. The woman's dress was hiked up to her shoulders, and she was trying to get up from the ground and throw herself at Ethan. I was furious and grabbed her hair. Screaming, I dragged her toward the door. Who the hell are you? Let me go. Smack! I slapped her hard, and in the moment I saw her face, a chill ran through my heart. Luna. The girl who had followed Julian silently in a previous life, who had secretly loved Julian. I had even helped her. So it was Julian who did this. Luna didn't recognize me yet. She lay on the ground, her eyes filled with resentment. Ethan touched me. I'm calling the police. The agent covered her mouth. If she likes calling the police so much, let her say it in front of them. Ethan's men arrived with the police in a hurry. Luna's eyes finally showed fear. Miss Victoria, is Mr. Miller okay? Ethan's secretary looked worried. I said, tonight, I'll watch over him. Before dawn, I won't let anyone near Ethan. Everyone left. I closed the door and collapsed onto the ground, completely drained. Before I could catch my breath, a large hand suddenly gripped my neck, dragging me off the ground. A loud thud echoed. My back collided with the door. The strong smell of alcohol overwhelmed my senses. Ethan's eyes were bloodshot. Get out! The pain made tears well up in my eyes, and I felt like I couldn't breathe. Ethan, it's me. Victoria. Ethan heard my name, and a flash of struggle crossed his eyes. Vicky. Yes. I tried to soften my voice, slowly climbing up his arm. I'm Vicky. I came to find you. Ethan's pale, handsome face flushed with a faint red. Victoria did this to me. It wasn't like this. He seemed confused, his face twisted in pain. She doesn't love me. She's always cold and harsh with me. You aren't her. Seeing Ethan's emotions, which had finally stabilized, begin to fluctuate again, I suddenly hardened my tone. Ethan, is this how you treat me? Ethan stiffened, his eyes filled with misty tears. I gritted my teeth and pulled his hand away. Ethan let go of my hand as if he had been burned. Fresh air rushed into my lungs. Ethan leaned against the wall, his head bowed. He closed his eyes. His handsome profile was hidden in the shadows, his face stained with blood, giving him a broken, alluring look as if he had been mistreated. I coughed, my voice hoarse. Ethan, go back to bed. Don't make me repeat myself. His lips trembled. Okay. I exhaled quietly. No matter what it takes, just obey me. He knelt by the bed, slowly lowering his body, his breathing irregular. I saw Ethan's flushed ears. And his neck and collarbone, tinged with a pinkish hue. It was clear that Ethan was in agony. But because I was there, he would rather grit his teeth and remain silent than let me see his pain. My heart melted completely. I carefully pulled on his tie. He was gently lifted up by his upper body, gazing at my face with a mix of devotion and confusion. Don't move, I whispered, kneel down. I'll untie your tie. Ethan's scorching breath washed over my wrist, leaving a tantalizingly hot sensation wherever his fingertips touched. I turned off the light. The tie became a restraint for his hands, tied to the bedhead to prevent him from hurting me in his confusion. Vicky. Vicky. He raised his neck, his expression pleading. Seeing his helplessness, I suddenly felt a twinge of sadistic pleasure. I leaned down and gently bit Ethan's lip. Mr. Jiang, just give in to me. No. He closed his eyes, almost mumbling, wanting Vicky. I curved my lips. I am Vicky. Vicky loves you. He seemed to be enchanted by me, quiet and still. At first, Ethan was obedient. In the darkness, his shallow, suppressed breaths were so tempting. Vicky, please don't do this. Don't do what? I teased him maliciously, continuing to stir up trouble on his body. However, the advantage vanished the moment the tie came loose. The beast restrained by reason finally broke free from its cage. I began to panic. Ethan, you bastard, you, get back, don't touch me. Unfortunately, he couldn't hear a thing. In the darkness, the clear ringing of a bell turned into the battle cry of beasts. The intense battlefield unfolded in the empty night, growing more and more intense, threatening human life. You can't reason with a beast that has lost its mind. You can only be plundered and bitten by him. And then, covered with his marks. This is killing me. At dawn, I finally kicked open the door and fled, wrapping myself in clothes. Miss Victoria, you don't look well. Did something happen last night? At the police station, Ethan's secretary reminded me with an uneasy expression. Recalling the chaotic escape and being caught red-handed, I wished I could disappear into the ground. I shifted the topic uncomfortably. Could we hurry up? I still have to go back. When I came out, Ethan was already asleep. Thank goodness. The situation didn't get any worse. Finish the statement quickly, and tonight's incident will be over. Everyone will be happy. Only a few hours had passed, and Nathaniel still didn't know that Luna had been taken away by the police. At that moment, the trending topic they had planned was already all over the internet. Ethan suspected of cheating with a hostess. In the photos, Ethan and Luna were clearly seen entering and exiting the room one after the other. In just half an hour, the topic was trending at the top. Netizens harshly criticized. Sure enough, men are all scum. Victoria just announced her marriage, and Ethan is already slapping her in the face. Divorce him. He doesn't deserve Victoria. I was about to post an update when my agent grabbed my hand. Wait a bit longer. You have no evidence. People will just think you're keeping quiet to cover for Ethan. The police will release a statement by noon at the latest. The interrogation went until 5:30 a.m. I dragged my exhausted body back to the room. The curtains weren't drawn yet, and the room was dim. Wait, why is the bed empty? Where's Ethan? I stood there dazed, my heart racing. The next second, a scorching body wrapped tightly around me from behind. Ethan's clear voice came, filled with a shattered sense of despair. Where did you go last night? I didn't react for a moment. What? I ask you, where did you go last night? Ethan clenched his teeth, his voice calm yet mad. I didn't go anywhere. Victoria. He pressed me hard onto the bed, his reddened eyes making my heart race. Did he misunderstand something? Ethan was trembling with pain. Victoria, doesn't your heart hurt? You hate me, you can let me die, why insult me like this? My mind went blank. How did I insult you? Is sleeping with me dirty? This statement provoked Ethan, and he let out a despairing laugh. You made me drink, had me defiled, ruined my reputation, divorced me, and then what? What else do you want? Do you want to see me die? His lips still bore the marks of where I had bitten him. He looked like a virtuous young man who had been brutalized. I suddenly noticed his phone lying on the bed. It was the news report that had already trended on social media. Ethan thought I had slept with someone else last night? My expression grew strange. Wait, listen to me, ah. Due to my movements, the dress ripped. The next second, my body covered in kiss marks was exposed before Ethan. Ethan froze. Despair flashed in his eyes. He trembled as he kissed my lips. His voice was humble. Who did this? Victoria, please tell me, who was it? He not only forgot how he had tormented me last night, but also thought I had cheated on him. The resentment I had been holding back all night erupted. In front of him, I burst into tears. Ethan stiffened, unable to react, before I kicked him several times. You bastard! 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 Who else could it be but you? I only slept for 2 hours last night. Do you want me to sleep or not? Ethan's face took a solid slap from me. A red mark quickly appeared. But he stood there, frozen. Vicky. The despair in his eyes suddenly stirred. There was a hint of disbelief. It spread like ripples on water. I cried loudly, pulled out my phone, and threw it into his arms. It was a photo I had taken of him last night. I had planned to keep it for myself. There were also short videos I had recorded, planning to blackmail him for a hefty sum once he woke up. But I hadn't recorded them properly, and Ethan, who had broken free from my restraints, had counterattacked. The video plunged into darkness, capturing the entire sequence of my pleas and curses. The voices that had once made me blush now froze Ethan in place. A moment of panic flashed in his eyes as he looked at me helplessly. Vicky, I thought I was dreaming. What do you mean, I was furious, and the spoiled, defiant side of me that I had hidden for so long couldn't be contained anymore. Get out! You wanted a divorce, didn't you? Go ahead! You're a scumbag who abandoned me. Ethan was almost kicked off the bed by me. Only then did he snap out of it. He grabbed my kicking legs and held me tightly. I'll take responsibility. He ignored my struggles. As long as I didn't divorce him, I could do whatever I wanted. A few hours later, I suddenly opened the door. I walked out with my arms crossed, looking arrogant. The people waiting at the door all looked over. Ethan was dressed in a suit, his tall figure following me silently and modestly. The reporters swarmed around us. May I ask, are the rumors online true? Did you really betray Miss Victoria and have an affair with a hostess? Ethan remained silent, his dark eyes fixed on me, as if he hadn't heard a word. I flipped my hair and covered my mouth, feigning surprise. Really? These days, even married couples need to check into a hotel room to avoid gossip? The person from last night has already been taken to the police station. Please stay tuned for the police report. The crowd's chaotic questions were giving me a headache. Ethan coldly swept his gaze over the crowd, covered my ears, and said, "Excuse me." After speaking, he led me out of the crowd. His men blocked the swarm of reporters behind us. We walked a considerable distance before I finally shook off his hand and got into the car. On the way, I felt a bit like a small-time villain. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was missing. Ethan stared at me silently. The man who had nearly lost control just hours ago was now unusually obedient. I raised my hand. Don't you notice that there are a few rings missing from my thumb, index finger, middle finger, and pinky? Who could have been kind enough to give them to me? Ethan pursed his lips, shifted his gaze uncomfortably, and said, "I'll buy them for you." I leaned into Ethan in an instant, smiling sweetly at him. "Ethan." He swallowed hard, closed his eyes, and nodded. I love you. This time, he didn't let me go. Instead, he stared at me and replied awkwardly, I love you too. As the parties involved, Ethan and I went to the police station. After understanding the situation, the police quickly issued a statement. Luna was temporarily detained and will be prosecuted. The news spread, and people started discussing it online. Some inevitably made gossipy comments. Who would have thought Victoria would cover for such a man? Exactly, who would want a dirty man? Upstairs, they're a group with shared interests, maybe they're just playing their own games behind the scenes. Haha, no matter what, Ethan is a rotten cucumber. Ethan and I returned home. As I opened the door, I kept nagging him. Don't pay attention to the nonsense online. It's just people talking, don't take it to heart. In a past life, after Ethan died, rumors about him spread like wildfire. Under Nathaniel's influence, there were even antisocial elements who poured gasoline on Ethan's grave. I was afraid he'd be hurt, so I reached for his phone. Log out of your account first. You're not allowed to log in for a few days. Before I could finish, Ethan tightly embraced me. The villa was dark. Time flowed silently in the dark night. Vicky, my body belongs only to you. Don't abandon me. Ethan finally shed his tough exterior and presented his heart to me. My eyes welled up, and I buried my face in his chest. Ethan, I have a story to tell you. Do you want to hear it? I told Ethan a lot. I told him about our missed opportunities in our past life. I told him about Nathaniel's treachery, about Julian and my past, and about the people Ethan needed to be wary of. But when I reached the end, I fell silent. Ethan listened intently, asking the most crucial question, how did I die? I curled up in his arms, my body trembling as the nightmare that had tormented me for countless nights engulfed me once more. Falling off a cliff. Nathaniel lied to you, saying I was at the summit. While you were climbing the mountain, someone tampered with the brakes, and you were thrown out of the window. I clutched Ethan's icy fingertips, unable to speak, sobbing, your hands were injured, you couldn't even grasp the last branch. To this day, the words Ethan has passed away remain an unbearable nightmare I cannot let go of. When I arrived at the scene, all I saw was the wrecked vehicle and chaotic claw marks in the mud. Ethan had fallen off the cliff. There was no trace of his body. Every time I wake up in the middle of the night, imagining Ethan's final moments, my heart aches so much I can't breathe. Falling from such a great height, how much pain must he have felt? Ethan gently patted my back, kissed my forehead, and said, don't worry, let's stop here for tonight. I clung to him desperately. Remember the people I mentioned earlier? Ethan's eyes were deep, filled with a tenderness that could make anyone lose themselves. Silly Vicky, I know all about them. I was speechless. Ethan ran such a massive business empire, how could he be so straightforward? The documents I had obtained, he had only glanced at briefly before dismissing them as fake. But why in my previous life? As if sensing my confusion, Ethan sighed and lowered his head to kiss me. Vicky, in this world, the only person who can make me willingly give up my life is you. If you ask me to, I'll stop struggling. Tears hung on my face, already cold. I suddenly stood up, staring blankly at Ethan. I won't let Ethan die. But what if someone impersonates me? Julian. My murmured voice made Ethan's expression tense. It's Julian. I stumbled to my feet and grabbed my phone. Suddenly, my hand was pulled back. Ethan stared at me anxiously, asking uncertainly, Vicky, you said you'd always be with me. I screamed at the top of my lungs. Damn Julian. I'm going to settle this with him. He and his stupid brother tricked me so badly. Ethan froze, a flash of light darting across his eyes. A few minutes later, Ethan held me tightly, his lips curving into a smile. It's okay, stop crying. I trembled with anger in his arms. I've been deceived. He must have said something to you. He's a scoundrel. Ethan lowered his head and hugged me, burying his face in the crook of my neck and murmuring softly, he's a scoundrel. The trending topic about this incident was eventually suppressed. Luna vanished without a trace. Ethan said, Nathaniel has an underground money launder in North Ridge City. Money of unknown origin goes through there and comes out clean. I suddenly understood. No wonder in my previous life, he was so powerful, able to control both the underworld and the authorities. I sat in a lounge chair bathed in sunlight. Ethan looked at me without a word, his eyes filled with tenderness. Vicky. He suddenly called my name. I was startled by his call. When I met his dark eyes, I suddenly recalled those recent nights that couldn't be spoken of, and my face flushed and my heart raced. Why did you suddenly call me? This time, I'll win. I rested my chin on my hand, smiled sweetly, and leaned in, my fingertips circling his collar. That. Mr. Miller, do you need some help? Ethan swallowed hard, gripping my wrist. How can I help? I mumbled for a long time. Ethan's expression darkened. No. I straddled him. Don't you think Julian's resources are too good to be true? Julian and I are both orphans. I was adopted by Ethan's mentor, studied music overseas, and with the strict guidance of my adoptive parents, I achieved this success. But Julian, he reached the peak of his career right after debuting. He kept getting great opportunities and even won the Best Actor award in his debut year. I always thought it was just Julian's good luck. But now that I know about his relationship with Nathaniel, I've started to think more deeply. Seeing Ethan still with a stern expression, refusing to budge, I smiled sweetly and said, The business world is your territory, but in the entertainment industry, Mr. Miller might not be as well connected as I am. Having me approach Julian is the best solution. If we don't get rid of this cancer sooner, how can I feel at ease about having a child? Ethan's eyelashes fluttered. A child? I kissed him on the lips. Don't you want a child? Don't you want to give him a stable and happy future? If it's a daughter, can you bear to let her live in such turmoil after she's born? Ethan's expression grew serious. I won't allow it. All right, we've reached an agreement. Ethan finally realized he'd been outmaneuvered. His voice grew solemn. Victoria. Meeting my determined gaze, he finally gave in. I promise you, but you must return to me every night. The night before my father's birthday banquet, I called Julian. The phone rang for a while before Julian answered. His voice was hoarse. Vicky, you finally called me. I was sobbing on the phone. Julian, you're right. Ethan is a jerk. I shouldn't have helped him. I regret it. The man who had been called a jerk was sitting across from me, peeling lychees for me. Hearing this, he squeezed the lychee flesh so hard that fingerprints remained. Julian's voice softened. As long as you're okay, that's all that matters. We've been together since we were kids, would I lie to you? Tomorrow is your father's birthday party. I bought you a gift to bring over. And you still owe me a concert. I bit into the lychee flesh he offered, then licked Ethan's fingertip. Seeing his stiff hand, I murmured contentedly, see you tomorrow. As expected, because of those few words, I didn't get to eat any lychees that night. I was dragged into the bedroom by Ethan, crying.